Good afternoon and welcome to our presentation of the benefits of giving with tax credits. We've got a small crowd today, so hopefully we can do a little Q&A with our expert. Jon Marple is joining us. He's not only a CSS parent, but also a Board of Trustees, our treasurer, and he is a CPA. So those last three letters after his name make him uniquely qualified to speak on tax credits. So let us get started here. We're going to go through and talk about the spirit of giving at the Colorado Springs School. We stand on the shoulders of giants, visionary trustees and dedicated donors over 60 years who have built up this amazing campus, our signature programs that faculty and staff have developed over years. Back in 1962, the school was founded, and very quickly the Board of Trustees recognized that the school needed its own home and purchased the Trianon and the surrounding property in this estate. As the school grew and student needs were in front of all of us, Boddington Field was added, and they constructed a dining hall, and all the wonderful additions to campus were made. Oftentimes those are referenced as capital campaigns, but even from the very beginning, we know that the school had annual needs, that they spoke to their parents and their young alums as a part of annual fund efforts. The historic preservation over the years of our campus, the care and maintenance of 28 acres, the playground, the pond, the fields, everything that helps deliver the student experience is part of our case for support in being an institution that is worthy of your gifts. So why is CSS worthy of your giving? First of all, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization in which we offer gifts with a tax-deductible benefit. We're preparing students for a dynamic world and positively been impacting student lives since 1962. Philanthropy covers the tuition gap of educating a student. Not every student's experience is fully funded by tuition. So we prioritize our dollars for the budget and strategic initiatives with philanthropic augmentation. Asking and giving in an independent school is a best practice. If you tune in with any independent school across the nation, there is some level of philanthropic activity and just a great opportunity for our constituents to all come together under one unified message. Our giving often inspires others to give. Whether that be big donors or corporations to give us matching gifts. Foundations and corporations often will ask us, does your Board of Trustees give it 100%? Does your faculty and staff give it 100%? And what is the giving level of your families, your grandparents, your past faculty and staff, your past parents, and of course your alumni? So we look at those standards as inspiring others to be part of our giving. We have just announced that our Board of Trustees made a $50,000 gift to this year's annual fund from our 9 voting members on the Board of Trustees. So thank you very much for modeling the way and stretching your giving over last year. We really appreciate that start to the annual fund. So what does your annual fund donation cover? This is a question that we often are in conversation with our families and donors. So we look at technology upgrades and long-term sustainability of our connectivity across 8 buildings on campus. How does that get implemented in terms of teaching resources and classroom innovations and improvements to make sure that we're offering a dynamic opportunity for kids to learn? We don't often see our kids sitting in desks. We know they do, but we know that they also get out and about quite often as they're really seeking for that relevant connection to the topic that they're studying. We're also funding curricular enhancements to support the student-centered experience. What does this mean? This year in particular, our faculty are doing quite a large curriculum mapping project. This helps identify gaps between grade levels or through divisions. It helps us strengthen those skills that are still relevant for students. And we're looking at that across the board, across subject levels. We are all too lucky to spend our days on this campus, but it is quite a big campus to maintain and to improve and to schedule upgrades for. I know Tambi hosted a walk with parents this week, and we were just marveling at the colors that are popping across campus and how lucky our students are to travel between classes and to enjoy everything that our campus has to offer. The annual fund also is critical for supporting signature programs such as the arts, athletics, and experiential seminars. You know, too often our friends and neighbors at local public schools are finding a reduction of these types of programs if they ever even have them in the robust nature that we feel is important. Those dwindling budgets and mill levies that aren't passing often put these types of programs on the chopping block, and we put them at the center of our kids' experiences. We know that the skills they learn and the brain-body connections between arts and athletics also spill over to their other classes and coursework, and the connections between band and mathematics is highly studied and sought, and we value and honor that. And so the annual fund does what it can to uplift these important programs. In today's day and age, we are continuing to remain agile with continued health and safety measures, whether that be taking the play outside or setting up outdoor classrooms, or really just taking advantage of our beautiful campus again for the sake of learning, and making sure we're doing mitigation and whatever is presented in this world that we are living in today. One of my favorite things to do as we talk about giving is to have donors and families reflect on their stories and be inspired by their own stories. So beyond the educational mission of the school, what are the benefits of being a part of the CSS community? Who is a teacher that's been very impactful on your students' journey, unlocking their true potential, introducing them to a passion, or helping them find the confidence to push through a challenge? What are those most memorable experiences? Maybe you'll sit around the dinner table this evening and talk about that. And often then that brings us to, how can I give? How can I give more? How can I maximize my gift? One rule that we have in the Advancement and Development Office is that we never apologize for the size of our gift. It is something that is personally meaningful to each individual who is choosing to make a gift. And no matter how big of a gift someone gives, they always wish they could give more. So let's talk a little bit about how we can maximize giving. Right now, we're in the throes of our Claremont Challenge, which typically happens for us each fall. A group of inspired donors has put forward a $25,000 challenge gift to launch our annual fund. And if we secure 60 donors who have made a commitment at the Claremont Society level of $1,962 or more by October 28th, then we will meet that challenge and be well on our way to reaching our annual fund goals. That doesn't mean we'll reach our annual fund goals. The Claremont Challenge usually just gives us that momentum that we need to get started. So we need many more gifts than what's stated in the challenge. And really, when each individual family, those who have been impacted by the CSS experience, to consider what a stretch gift looks like for them. Can you give a little bit more than last year? Can you give a lot more than last year? Have you had a really good year? Maybe now is the time to pay it forward. We also hear people say, I have the goal of next year wanting to give a Claremont level gift. And sometimes people set up that goal by, we're able to make that happen by letting them have the opportunity to do a recurring credit card gift, a monthly gift that allows you to chunk that gift over a period of time. That's how I participate in our Claremont Society Challenge and what we do. Often, several people in our community are able to go back to their employers, and employers have increased corporate matching gifts, and they will match your dollars. They might even match your volunteer dollars. So in essence, if you volunteer 10 hours with the school on a committee, in the classroom, laminating, your corporation may actually pay out those volunteer hours to your charity of choice. So that's another thing to look into. Of course, the Colorado Childcare Tax Credit is a 50% tax credit that we know if you are paying taxes in the state of Colorado, then this is a huge way to grow your gift. But again, just a couple of ways to maximize your gift: Claremont Challenge, recurring giving, corporate matching gift, and we'll kick things over to Jon Marple to talk more about the Colorado Childcare Tax Credit and what's on the horizon. Thanks.
This net cost of donation is so low with regard to the actual donation amount. And this is going to vary depending on your personal tax situation. If you want to have a private conversation with me about specifically what your return looks like, we can get down to actual net cost of making a deduction. But yeah, in short, 50 cents at every dollar just is taken right off your Colorado tax, and then depending on your situation, either the entire amount of the donation or 50% of it's going to be deductible to the IRS and the state of Colorado. So you're kind of double dipping to a degree. You're able to take the donation and get the credit. So it's if you've used it in the past, I mean, it's a really good bang for the buck in terms of helping the school, helping your personal tax situation, and getting the deduction and credit as well. So, if you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer anything.
Yeah, no, sorry, I don't have any specific questions.
Okay, that's cool.
I appreciate
Jon,
the explanation, though.
Something that oftentimes people ask is, well, why would the state do this? And I've heard that sort of optimistic answer of, it really allows individual residents to kind of designate where their tax dollars go, and that they have been in favor of giving that flexibility. Is that a good answer to why would the state allow?
I don't know what the legislative intent, but if you look at what the current administration's pushing, which is often floated by folks in DC as kind of universal pre-K. And this is kind of a way to help residents fund that. So it indirectly incentivizes, well, it directly incentivizes people to give to pre-K programs, and then indirectly helps the institutions that are offering that. It's the same with if you carry long-term care insurance on yourself, the state gives you a tax credit to a degree for that, because at some point, if you need long-term care and you run out of assets, you're going to be a burden on the medical system and the state. And so they offer an incentive to do that. I mean, that's the study of economics, right? Trying to financially incentivize people to make certain decisions and behavioral outcomes. So so that's all. That's all it really is an indirect way for citizens to make a decision as to where some of their tax dollars go.
Fantastic. Over time, I've compiled a list of kind of frequently asked questions related to the Colorado Childcare Tax Credit. And maybe we can just go through these one by one, or if you've often run into frequently asked questions related to this. The first one I usually get is this for real? And a lot of other ACIS schools utilize this tax credit. When new heads of school come into our state, they're pretty blown away by the advantageous nature of this tax credit for Colorado. And so, yes, the tax credit is real, is the first myth that we want to bust. But do I need to pay taxes in Colorado? And one that is unique to our situation, we have a lot of military families who don't necessarily pay taxes in Colorado. So we want to make sure that they really consult with an accountant as to whether they can benefit from this. If they're not paying taxes in Colorado, my understanding is they can't use this.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think, as we mentioned in that meeting we had last week, it does carry forward for 5 years, or maybe that was a discussion I had privately with a client. So but it's not a refundable credit. So in other words, if you owe $1,000 in Colorado tax and you get a $2,000 credit, they don't send you a check for $1,000. You get to offset your current liability and then carry the other $1,000 forward for up to 5 years. And if you do not itemize on your federal taxes, we still have an above the line deduction for this year of $600. So even if you don't itemize, you still get to deduct $600 on your federal taxes, and the state of Colorado enables you to deduct any charitable contributions in excess of $500 if you don't itemize. So you're going to get benefit from Colorado both almost regardless, and a minimum of $600 as a deduction if you do not itemize. Obviously, if you itemize, you get the full deduction. Asterisk, consult your tax account, because it could be half of that depending on your current situation.
So can I clarify, does that mean you have to give at least a minimum of $600 to be able to use that?
No. That's a cash charitable contribution deduction on the federal return for non-itemizers.
Okay, non-itemizers. Okay, fantastic. Yeah. One thing that is often asked, and when we talk to, not only our current families, but our alums and our grandparents and our past parents, or even an upper school family might say, well, can I use the credit if I don't have young children or children at all? So they live in Colorado, but they don't have children, or they don't have young kids. And often I speak to this as a way of, yes, you can still be eligible to use this tax credit. We are not overfunding our pre-K program at the expense of middle or upper school. In fact, this is one of those situations where everyone benefits. It's good for the school, it's good for the donor. And we only have a maximum number of credits each year to give out. And at some point, I'm sure we'll hit up against that maximum more closely, but we still have tax credits remaining on this year. So anyone can designate their gift as early childcare, and we can apply that tax credit for you.
And one cool thing I want to point out to you, Jessica, if you're not aware, and this would be more for grandparents. So when you take your required minimum distribution out of IRAs, you can designate some to go to charity or all to go to charity, and you don't pay tax on the IRA distribution. And that's called a qualified charitable distribution out of your RMD. So it's kind of an alphabet soup there. But what's cool about that, and I'm getting more and more clients to do this, is you can give out of your RMD to charities and still qualify for the child tax credit or the enterprise zone credit. So that's something for Lance as well, if he's not aware of it. So, I have a client who's got $70,000 of RMD this year, and she doesn't need the money, doesn't want it. All of her money's going to go to charity. And she's giving $70,000 to charities. And I'm saying, well, let's put some of that to childcare. Unfortunately, she wants to give it all to Catholic charities. Otherwise, I'd your way.
Directing her. Exactly. That's a really good point, because we have actually seen one of the largest segments of philanthropic growth at this school has been from our grandparents. Our grandparents are extremely generous. They really value what the school is doing and the type of education that we're having. So if we can give back to them by, offering these additional tax credits, if they're doing that qualified charitable distribution from their IRAs, again, another couple of wins to maximize giving as a family. Another one that just recently came up is, can I give through an S Corp and still be eligible for the Colorado Childcare Tax Credit? So we said you can give straight up cash, you can give through an S Corp, you can give an IRA qualified charitable distribution. My understanding is the only things we can't give childcare tax credits for are stock transfers, because they're already gaining benefits related to capital gains. And then you can't do an in-kind gift, which is like a donation of a good or service, such as like a gala auction basket. You won't get a childcare tax credit for that. Is that all on par, Jon?
Yeah, it needs to be a cash contribution. And sometimes I say cash contribution to clients and they think it's got to be like physical cash. When
Right.
we say cash, we mean cash
checks, credit
card,
cards.
yeah.
I just sat in on a
can't-
webinar of an organization that is piloting the concept of helping nonprofit organizations accept Bitcoin as charitable contributions. So that's trending down the road. We talked about carrying over tax credits and the opportunity to do that for up to 5 years. And then Jon, just kind of wrap us up. Any other questions from Carrie or Heather Kelly? Thanks for joining us here. As what are good things to talk to your tax accountant about? Because I know, Jon, you've mentioned to me before that some accountants don't even know this exists.
Well, I would assume most accountants in Colorado would know the child care tax credit. I was referring to a lot of them wouldn't know about the limitation potentially on the deduction side of things.
Okay.
If you're up against that certain threshold. And I do have clients who live out of state but still have, Colorado rental properties or Colorado assets that they have to pay taxes on. And the out of state accountants are not necessarily going to be versed on that. And some people, move here and they keep their accountant from Oklahoma.
Yes.
And he's just not aware of it. So it happens. So sometimes you have to educate your accountant on some of the rules or nuances that they might not be otherwise exposed to.
Sure. I know one thing, I have used an out-of-state accountant before, and it was definitely something that I had to put in front of them several times before they really got that as a part of my inventory of receipts. We do issue from your additional tax receipt, what's called a DR 1317. And that is what the state of Colorado requires you to submit with documentation. So that documentation can be uploaded if you're filing your taxes online, if you're doing it yourself, which I did last year, or that your accountant uploads on your behalf. So we always are issuing those paper copies, but also keep scanned copies here in the office for donors to access. I got a request this week, actually. There must be a deadline coming.
Friday.
Okay, there you go. Carrie, any other questions?
No, I don't. Thank you guys so much.
Totally.
Sorry you had to do this just for me.
No, it was good. I popped into our recording mode so that if others want to listen and take part in the conversation, or you can listen on their own time, we have that benefit as well. So thanks so much. And if you have anything else, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate all you do.